Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another episode, number 55. This week, we're going to take a look at a series of experiments the government really doesn't want people to know about.
Oh boy.
I had started off doing research on an article I found about Quaker Oats and MIT um, teaming up to poison disabled children.
That's awesome.
But then I kind of went down a rabbit hole of how the government was like, yeah, let's do that, but on like a bigger scale. A lot. So we're going to be looking at radioactive experiments in the U.S.
Hey.
Yay. Not yay. So we're going to start with the oatmeal. In 1877, Henry Parsons Crowell trademarked the Quaker Oats brand. Then in 1891, he joined with two other millers, Robert Stewart and Ferdinand Schumacher, and created the American Cereal Company. It would take less than a decade for the three men to find conflict amongst themselves, first with Schumacher forcing Crowell and Stewart out before they came back, ejected Schumacher, and rebranded the company as the Quaker Oats Company in 1901. So it's already 10 years. No, this is my company. You guys are out. And they're like, no, motherfucker, don't play with us. Oats. Who knew that oats were so messy?
For sure.
Quaker Oats would have good fortune for quite a while. That is until news of their past deeds came to light. These deeds, burp, these these deeds were tied to the Fernald State School, built in 1888 as a school for quote unquote feeble and weak-minded boys. Named the Massachusetts School for the Feeble-Minded in the beginning, the school would later be renamed after the third superintendent, Walter E. Fernald. Fernald was a loud supporter of the eugenics movement and believed the best way to improve society was to, quote, separate unwanted and inferior people so they could not breed, end quote.
No.
This is why, like, when we first started playing Minecraft and you were like, you have to breed the villagers, I was like, what, excuse me? We're doing what now? This is giving eugenics. And it kind of does.
Kind of does, yeah.
Because you only have to trade with the villagers that you want to breed. But then again, you don't have control over the nimlets, so
yeah,
the nimlets just be fucking. So it's really just like idiocracy over there.
Yeah.
All right. Fernald did not just take in the mentally disabled, however, he soon began to take in people who were simply poor or unhoused. It is believed that at least half of the quote-unquote patients held there during this time were of quote-unquote typical intelligence. As it is with facilities like this at the time, the conditions inside were deplorable for the patients, with reports of abuse by staff rampant. It got even worse when rumors of a secret experiment started to get around. In 1949, the school started a new science club. The boys would do experiments and such, but that was not what really drew the kids to the club. Quote, club members scored tickets to Boston Red Sox games, trips off the school grounds, gifts like Mickey Mouse watches, and lots of free breakfasts. End quote.
Oh no.
Lots of free breakfasts. It was those breakfasts provided by Quaker Oats that would later be revealed to be poison. There were three separate experiments between the late 1940s and early 1950s that involved 74 boys from the school aged between 10 and 17. So we're going to talk about what exactly that we're poisoning people with.
Right.
Plutonium.
Nice.
Plutonium was first discovered in the early 1940s in the early stages of the Manhattan Project, from which we get the atomic bomb. Plutonium is the byproduct of uranium fission and outside of the body is harmless, but if it should be inhaled or injected, it starts to break down DNA and damages the body's cells, quote, as if the contaminated person is being shot with trillions of tiny bullets every second from the inside, end quote.
That's horrible.
It sounds painful.
Yeah.
Just millions of tiny,
Extremely
trillions,
painful.
trillions of tiny bullets. But it's also, I think that's the damage that it's creating in your cells. It's like eating away at your cells.
Yeah.
The most common risk of exposure is the increased risk of tumors over one's lifetime, or if the dose is high enough, it can cause death within seconds. But plutonium has another threat, heavy metal poisoning. Quote, a 150-pound adult, there's one right there,
Hey, guys.
who consumes 22 milligrams of plutonium, or no, 22, I think it's micrograms actually of
Makes my
plutonium,
skin glow.
or about 1/128th of a teaspoon, has a 50% chance of dying just from the poisoning before the radiation effects even come into play, end quote.
Wow. It kills you quick.
Yeah. Let's see. In one of these
Good thing I'm a mutant.
experiments at the boys' school, the boys were fed oatmeal made with radioactive iron tracers. Then they were given oatmeal made with milk laced with radioactive calcium. And some boys were straight injected with radioactive calcium.
Jeez.
They like the radioactive because then you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this experiment was not just dreamed up by Quaker Oats and the school for shits and giggles. This was one of dozens of experiments approved by the Atomic Energy Commission. The 74 boys exposed against their will at the school were a small fraction of the over 210,000 civilians and GIs exposed to radioactive materials between 1945 and 1962.
Jeez.
As for Quaker, they were hoping that science would prove that they were just as healthy as cream of wheat, their biggest competitor at the time. Literally. They wanted to prove that they were just as healthy as cream of wheat, which is made with farnia, some shit like that. I don't know. My mom ate cream of wheat. It's a northern thing. And it did. It showed that oats did not inhibit the absorption of any vitamins and minerals. As for the boys who were subjected to the test, they seem to have no lasting effects from it, but that isn't really the problem they have with what was done to them. Their problem lies in the fact that it was done without their consent and in an institution that was meant to protect them. This has happened time and time again in this country, higher powers using human beings as test subjects. It wasn't until the 70s when people first started learning about these government-backed experiments when the Tuckasegee experiment was revealed. And I will cover that at some point, but boy, it's going to piss me off because I've heard it and I'm getting mad just thinking about it.
Right.
They just told them they just had bad blood. You got some bad blood.
Right.
In 1993, Scott Allen, a journalist at the Boston Globe, ran a day after Christmas titled ran an article the day after Christmas titled Radiation Used on Retards, and that's a quote. Don't like that word, but that's what he said.
Right.
His article not only fueled nationwide debates, but forced the government to investigate the claims, with the victims receiving a large payout. There are various other cases of people being given radioactive materials. So actually, I got my dates all wrong. This went started well before 1945. In 1927, In Lyle Station, Indiana, 10 children had radiation blasted onto their heads in what the parents were told was a new experimental treatment for ringworm.
All right.
One child would be disfigured and left with an open wound on the side of his head.
Jesus.
The parents went after the hospital in court, and the court was found not liable.
Damn.
'Cause they're all fucking crooked.
Oh, yeah.
In January of 1994, President Bill Clinton formed the advisory committee on, you know what, fucking lock his ass up too. Formed the advisory committee on human radiation experiments chaired by Ruth Fadden of the John Hopkins Berman Institute of Bioethics. This was formed after a new policy was put in place by the newly appointed Secretary of Energy, Hazel O'Leary, that called for full transparency of the U.S. Department of Energy. This allowed for over 1.6 million pages of classified records to be released, which showed the full extent of radioactive experiments. Like one in 1945, when Eb Cade was a construction worker in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and was injected with 4.7 micrograms of plutonium.
Jesus.
Again, without his informed consent.
That's pretty fucked up.
Now, if there's anybody out there that's like, what's the difference between consent and informed consent? I'm going to tell you. Say, for example, you're asked, would you like to be a part of this experiment? We're going to give you a shot, and then we're going to monitor how you feel. You say, yeah, that's consent. Informed consent would be them saying, would you like to take a part in this experiment? We're going to inject you with radioactive material in your body to see how it affects you. Oh, you'll probably get an incurable disease and or die, and we're not going to pay for you to get treatment.
Right.
That's informed consent.
Sure.
Specific. Eb Cade was under the impression that he was just getting another shot, probably a vaccine, so what was the harm? A lot. It's a lot of harm.
Yep.
That same year, in connection with the Manhattan Projects, experiments on the hospital patients began at the University of California, San Francisco Medical Center. Here, terminally ill patients were given an IV solution of plutonium, and then their urine and stool samples would be analyzed. Gee,
I bet.
how is this killing them fast? They're dying anyways. Let's make it more fucking painful.
Mm-hmm.
One such patient was 58-year-old Albert Stevens. Albert was admitted to UCSFMC in 1949, and after a misdiagnosis of cancer, he was given the largest dose of plutonium a human had ever received, just under 1 microgram. And there was like a whole thing with like, it was like there was some of it was a plutonium that had like a 12,000 year shelf life.
Yeah.
And so it was less active. And then one was a highly active plutonium that only had like an 800-year shelf life. Albert lived for another 21 years receiving health care from the medical center the whole time. His family believed that he had received a trial cancer treatment that had worked, while the whole time Albert was slowly deteriorating from the inside. Occasionally, Albert would undergo surgery. Lord only knows what the doctors told him it was for. In reality, they were harvesting parts of his organs to do research.
Right.
Yeah. Was that your son? I think it was. One of the first experiments conducted by the military was done at Hunters Point in the late 1946, when ships that had been irradiated in atomic bomb tests were brought in and people were paid to decontaminate the vessels.
Oh, no.
The workers understood the work was dangerous. They were given some form of PPE, or personal protective equipment, but what they did not know was that they were being monitored for how well the clothing would protect them from the radiation.
Yep.
These ships had come from a test of plutonium bombs that had gone wrong when one of the bombs dropped, exploded underwater, blasting the 90 warships anchored in the area with radiation. The workers were then sent in these protective suits to strip the ships so they could be sold or used again,
What the fuck?
all while researchers were watching how the radiation affected them.
That's great.
Yeah. And they're stripping the damn shit to sell them.
Yep.
You can't strip the radiation out of fucking metal.
No.
Now, of course, this was all justified by the government under the
Of course it
guise
was.
of national security.
By God.
Gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. Legitimately, have you guys watched Stranger Things? No. Wrong one. Welcome to Derry. Have you guys watched Welcome to Derry? It's. He was like, yeah, some people are gonna die. The kids are gonna die. That's what happens. Like, sir. How else can you research how these things will affect humans without exposing some humans to the material? Science and security and all that. At this particular lab, the U.S. Naval Radiological Defense Laboratory, located at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard in San Francisco, they were known to have exposed at least 1,073 people to radioactive materials during the period of the Cold War.
God.
This number does not include the neighborhoods, such as the historically black neighborhood near the lab, who were also affected by the pollution caused by the lab.
Right.
One of the leaders of these experiments was Joseph Hamilton, a physician and chemist. Hamilton was already working with the government on the Manhattan Project and also led a previous experiment that injected unwitting patients at local hospitals with plutonium.
Amazing.
Hamilton took that
They're like,
approach.
they're like, let's spread this shit around.
Oh, listen, even other people were concerned about how loosey goosey this motherfucker was. Okay. Hamilton took that approach in his own life when it came to handling radioactive materials, often seen leaning against unshielded particle accelerators.
Nice.
It should be no surprise that he died in 1957 at the age of 49 from leukemia.
Yeah. Cancer.
Endure. And leukemia is the worst because it's like a bone cancer or blood cancer.
Something
It's in
like
your
that.
blood.
Yeah.
When it came to the research, Hamilton was loosey goosey with the safety standards and also tried to keep officials from asking for second opinions. He felt that too many opinions would lead to too many unnecessary rules.
Yeah. Like ones that'll save your life.
Or maybe they would just see through his bullshit, like when he told them, oh, if you just paint over that radiation spot, it won't affect anybody.
Yeah.
Tried to say that paint would keep radiation in.
Mm-hmm. Maybe lead paint.
Maybe that like super absorbent black paint, but that's about it.
Right.
And it's actually not paint, it's metal, but whatever. People like Rear Admiral Clifford A. Swanson, the Navy's top doctor. As more of the irradiated ships arrived to the lab, Swanson began to outline safety regulations for working with the materials. He began outlining a need for some form of face covering as to not inhale the particles, quote, even when the exposure is not of such an order as to cause death, it may cause tumors of various tissues which may be disabling. This subtle lurking hazard requires respect, end quote.
Yeah.
Oh, Ron Swanson over here knows what the fuck he's talking about. 2 weeks later, Swanson issued even more guidelines requiring doctors to conduct radioactive counts on urine and stool samples of the men who were working aboard the vessels. But many of the workers were not as concerned as the doctor. Shocker. Some of them had been taking pieces of the ship home as memento.
Oh, no.
So spreading it to their families.
Yeah.
And would you believe that they didn't always wear their mask?
That's horrible.
Can you believe it? It's not like we just went through a whole fucking pandemic where people didn't wear their goddamn mask. Never heard of that before. Photos show some workers sitting beside the ships just casually eating lunches.
Yeah,
Like, you
I feel horrible for
guys.
all those guys.
I mean, I do too, but also, like, the doctor's fucking telling you to wear your shit, wear your shit.
Nobody knew what radiation was back then,
No, they didn't, but, like,
or the effects of it on people, anyways.
it's, they didn't, but it's just like with COVID. They're telling you, hey, take these precautions
Yeah.
to try and mitigate the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, I'll be all right.
Right.
Sure. Swanson knew that there was going to be some exposure for the workers on the docks, but tried to mitigate it the best he could at the time. In one memo, he ordered that there be enough workers that each one was on board as little as possible. So he wanted to like rotate them out pretty quick in shifts.
Sure.
They were required to wear dosimeters or strips of paper that would change color when exposed to radiation. Anyone whose gear was damaged was removed from work altogether, and those who caught stealing pieces of the ship would face harsh consequences.
I'm sure.
In 1947, the experiments ramped up with a memo from Swanson's office that encouraged expansion of the experiments, including, quote, the establishment of levels of maximum permissible exposures and total dosage, end quote. So that leads me to the experiments at the University of Cincinnati. Weird, we just talked about Cincinnati. I'm trying to think. No, he started his killings in like 1970. So, too bad he didn't get dosed up with some fucking radiation. This experiment lasted from 1960 till 1971 and would see 88 patients being subjected to extreme experiments. Quote, Sanger picked test subjects from poor, mostly non-white groups of cancer patients and exposed them, again without a hint of informed consent, to extreme doses of whole body radiation, end quote. These tests were done under the direction of Dr. Eugene Sanger, who would subject these patients to radiation that was the equivalent of 20,000 chest x-rays.
Shoo.
1 in 4 patients died from the tests themselves, while others were left dealing with terrible symptoms, quote, nausea, uncontrollable vomiting, severe mental confusion, and other neurological effects, loss of hair, loss of appetite, loosening teeth, mouth ulcers, and a dramatically elevated lifetime risk of cancer, end quote.
Mm.
Sanger never paid for his crimes, which is what they were, and no one really knows what he was attempting to achieve with these experiments, as the cancer the patients had already was known to not respond to whole body irradiation. But even still, he was lauded as a pioneer of research and seen as a pillar of his community until his death in 2007 at the age of 90. This motherfucker lives till 90.
Damn.
One of the more atrocious experiments, in my opinion, is when over 800 women were given radioactive iron pills to test how well they absorb the iron. Let me rephrase that. 800 pregnant women.
Oh no.
This experiment, funded by Vanderbilt University, also tested the babies when they were born to see how much iron they absorbed through the placenta. Well, and I didn't know this. I might actually look more into this. Do you know that people that live in high elevations get higher doses of radiation?
Yes.
I did not know that. Why?
Because
Is it because we're closer to the atmosphere?
yes,
Well, that's just stupid.
there's less atmosphere above us.
Oh, so there's like less for the radiation to travel through.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just stupid. So it says, while small doses of exposure is common in some places like Denver, no one knew how much radiation the fetuses would actually absorb or how it would affect them. Also, again, the mothers were not made fully aware of what was in the supplements they were taking so that they could give Informed consent.
Right.
Then you get to the testing on the general public. During the summer of 1957, the U.S. held 29 nuclear tests in Nevada, in which the debris was carried downwind to communities they called downwinders. There was the lighter debris that floated on the air, and then the heavier metal that settled on the ground and eventually entered the groundwater. These same water these communities depended on to live. Quote, downwinder communities showed a marked increase in thyroid cancers and leukemia, which may have killed between 1,000 and 2,000 people who would not otherwise have developed cancer. End quote.
Yep.
Soldiers would then be marched through these irradiated areas, roughly 18,000 troops, and then analyzed for how they reacted to the exposure. Not shocking, they were found to be twice as likely to get cancer later in life. And I didn't write this down. I meant to, I forgot. John Wayne filmed a movie in Nevada out in this area and then died of cancer just
Yeah.
like months or like a year or something later. Like,
Sure.
and people think that he was like sent out there so he would get sick so he would die. I don't really care. I hate the man. He was again an unapologetic white supremacist, so I have no love for John Wayne, but wild.
Yeah, you would think. Like,
What?
now that we've studied it, though, it's like, it's not so wild. Like, we just need to stay away from radioactivity.
Right. Maybe stay away from the areas where we drop bombs and shit.
Yep.
Maybe stop dropping bombs on people and shit.
Even like X-rays are now starting to be less used because of the radioactivity. Um, they're starting to just use ultrasounds now because it's a much safer way of telling what's in your body.
Except for your teeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still got to x-ray the teeth.
Yeah.
Clinton's committee, created in 1993, finally finished their investigation in 1995. They came to the conclusion that, quote, wrongs were committed, end quote, but that was the extent of it. They named no offenders in their report and even went as far as dismissing the experiments on pregnant women and young boys as, quote unquote, not harmful. Okay. No new laws or reforms were planned to make sure this would not happen again, and when President Clinton addressed the issue, only apologized, offering no reparations for those affected and their families. And not much has been done in this in the 31 years since, and there's not much stopping the government from doing this again.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part.
That's that. Leave you with that thought.
Oh god.
Nothing stopping them from doing this again, folks.
Yeah.
So, Bill, thoughts?
Um, nuclear shit scares me because it's the kind of the unseen killer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you can't really detect it without a Geiger meter.
Yep.
But
Yeah, because I mean,
which you
like,
could.
how many shows have we watched people going to like Chernobyl and
Yeah.
it looks completely normal, but then they get their Geiger counter out and it's like, meh!
Yeah.
Like, oh shit,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. There's a. I want to say you can get an app for your phone to make it into a Geiger meter, but
That's interesting.
yeah,
Wonder what all it takes.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, I don't love it. Don't love it.
I want to say they used something that was radio, or maybe a component of radioactive stuff to place inside the Geiger meter to detect radioactivity, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that would be strange. That would be strange. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so that's that on the radioactive experiments.
I mean,
Thanks, Merca.
I watched the movie Trinity, which it goes over all the nuclear bombs that were set off that the U.S. and Russia tested, and there was like thousands of them. But so
Yeah, I mean, we had hundreds alone out there in Nevada. Like,
it made me feel bad for the guys that had to clean it up because
It's crazy,
they
right?
they just had no idea what that stuff would do to them
Yeah.
back then.
They had no idea. And the doctors were like, oh, just go clean this stuff up. Here's you
Hmm.
some PPE. You'll be all right.
They
But
thought it,
secretly, they're like behind the scenes going, okay, well, his white blood cell counts went up and now his bones are deteriorating. And this is fascinating. Like,
yep,
and then at the end of the day, you find all this stuff out. And again, what reparations are they getting?
they watched people melt.
They literally
Like,
watched people melt
yeah, it melted them
for the name of
because of the
science.
high radiation.
Like, all in the name of science. And none of these people or their families have ever gotten anything for the pain and suffering. The pain. The pain.
Yeah,
Okay. The pain and suffering that they went through. And again, there are no laws, there are no reforms, there's absolutely nothing stopping somebody from doing this again.
and like nuclear stuff's caused a lot of uh, bad shit, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Like
Like, it doesn't, it's bad.
it's bad,
It's
and it
real bad.
stays there. It doesn't go away.
Nope.
Like
Like, you still can't go to Chernobyl, and
no,
it's been 50 something years.
there's spots in the desert that you can go to now in the U.S. Don't go to them.
Don't. Just
But
don't.
the sand glows
Yeah.
because the radioactivity.
Yeah. Like, from space.
Yep.
Like, it's bad, folks. It's real bad.
And we wonder why we get cancer.
Like, we're like 30 minutes from a power plant where we're sitting right now, so
Yep.
a nuclear plant.
Yeah. Fun fact: one of the most abundant resources for plutonium is right down the road from us in the next state over.
Yeah. Yeah. And imagine, it's also lithium, right? A lithium mine that they're
There.
wanting to do, or is it uranium?
Well, there's lithium that's in the mountains that we live in. Um,
Yeah, there's like a huge
but
deposit in Tennessee that they're talking about opening up a mine for.
yeah,
And like, while lithium in and of itself may not be dangerous,
no, lithium's innate.
the byproduct of the mining is the pollution from the mining is what's the problem,
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
and that's gonna end up affecting us at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's all gonna run downhill, folks.
Yeah.
Glad we sit on top of one. God dang. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We hope you found this episode enlightening. Not like there's much we can do with the knowledge, but we live in a dystopian hellscape.
Welcome to the dystopian future.
We hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys later.
Be kind to each other.
Love you. Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.